Monday, February 11th, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about how the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy said that the Bank of Italy should be reduced to zero. So basically calling for the abolition of the central bank, not just changing or reforming it. And it looks like our message is getting across there. End the Fed or end the Bank of Italy. If you're interested in these mugs, go to the description of the video. We have a Teespring store. You can buy the mugs there and other merchandise. So this morning I'm going to go through the story. I'm also going to go through a story in the FT, a weekend FT, about central banks. I don't usually buy the FT. I don't like their stance about economics, but sometimes you need to buy the enemy's publications to see what they're thinking. Before I go into the Bank of Italy story, I will look at what the markets are doing early this morning in London. It's 7:30 a.m. So let's quickly have a look here. We've got spot gold, 1311.50, down about $2.50. Range has been 1310 to 1315, so fairly quiet. Silver, 1575, down about 8 cents. Range has been 1589 to 1573. So silver's come off the highs. The Dow futures is down 42 at 25,061. The S&P is down 3.5 points at 2704, and the Nasdaq 100 futures down 0.2% at 6,900. What about the currencies? The pound is virtually unchanged, 129.33 against the dollar. The euro is up marginally 3 pips, 113.25. And the dollar is up 0.2% against the yen, just below 110. It's 109.95. Dollar's down a little bit against the yuan, 678. Crude oil down 1%. WTI at 52.43. The yield curve, while the 10-year yield is virtually unchanged this morning, it's at 264. The spread between the 1 year and the 5 year is at over 8 basis points. So that means the curve is inverted from 1 year to 5 year. The 7 year is almost inverted. It's kind of at the same yield as the first, so it's flat, but it's close to inverting. Bank of Italy, Deputy Prime Minister of Italy, and this is what he said, not what I'm saying. It's from this story here on Bloomberg. And this has been over the weekend. Italy's populists slam regulators, Brussels, over bank rules. I like the way they don't point out that they slam the central bankers, just the regulators. So this story is from Saturday. And this is what it says here. This is Matteo Salvini. He's the Deputy Prime Minister. He's his party is the Northern League. He's in a coalition with the Five Star Movement. And they call the Northern League, of course, populist. They call them fascist, right-wing. They've been calling them that for many, many years. So they quote him here. It says, the Bank of Italy. So he does say the Bank of Italy and Consob. What's Consob? Well, it's the Italian version of the SEC. So the Bank of Italy and Consob should be reduced to zero. More than just changing 1 or 2 people. Reduced to zero, Salvini told the meeting, which was held in the town of Vicenza. Well, what was he doing there? So I'll read here from the article. It says, Italy's fractious populist leaders slam banking fraudsters and their and I quote that, and their nation's central bank, positioning themselves as the champions of savers and defying the European Union with a pledge to compensate investors who lost money when lenders failed. Deputy Premiers Matteo Salvini anti-immigration League Party, and Luigi Di Maio of the anti-establishment Five-Star Movement shared the stage at a packed meeting in northern Italy with former stakeholders in Banca Popolare di Vicenza and Veneto Banca, which were liquidated in 2017. So yeah, they call them anti-establishment, but they're in power now, so they're becoming, the establishment. What about the Five-Star Movement? Well, the other interesting thing about the Five-Star movement, it's that it was founded by a guy called Beppe Grillo, who was a very famous Italian comedian, and I'll put a link to a video he made, or a comedy show he did in 1998, where he talks about he coined the term banksters, Beppe Grillo, and he started this Five-Star Movement, which is now part of the coalition government in Italy. So I'll put it up in the link above, in the I, and below in the description. It's got subtitles. It's actually very funny because he's a very famous comedian in Italy. Beppe Grillo, 1998, Banksters. So it looks like public's waking up to the fact that the central bankers are the problem, that central banks are the problem. You've got the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy saying that they should be reduced to zero. Of course, the headline on Bloomberg doesn't even mention that. They just say that it's they slam regulators and Brussels, which they do, but it doesn't say, Italy's populists say central banks should be reduced to zero. You never really see too much stories where they highlight central banks, but it's going to be more and more difficult, in my opinion. And why do I say that as well? Well, I was reading this, the editor, one of the big stories in the FT, on the weekend FT. Don't buy it. Very rarely do I buy that, but I went out to buy a paper for someone else, and I thought, oh, let's just buy this. So this article is talking about how a year ago, the IMF, all the central banks, were cheerleading on the world economy, how things were going to get better, and how it's turned out to be a complete flop, of course. So here you go, the article. It says, a year ago, the IMF was hailing a broad surge in the global economy, but with China slowing, Brexit talks stalled, and trade disputes growing, central banks are now putting the brakes on planned rate rises. So you can see like how they blame China, they blame Brexit, they blame trade disputes. They don't really blame the fact that the world is in a huge credit or debt bubble, and that maybe the cycle is just turning, right? The other thing the article points out to, though, is how it says here, global economic policy uncertainty hits a new peak. And this is something taken from UBS, a monthly index. And it's, the highest ever since they've been measuring it like in 2005. So here it is. Global economic uncertainty. So, yes, I think this is going to hurt even more the central bankers. They've, had this massive experiment since 2008 of money printing, zero, sometimes even negative interest rates. They bailed out banks that they should have been, overseeing in 2008. They create moral hazard, as I've said many times. And hopefully people are waking up to not only the bankers, the private bankers, commercial bankers, but the people in charge, the central bankers. And it's a good, I would say it's good that the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy has come out and said that the central bank should be reduced to zero. I've never voted before. If this is for real, I might just vote for the first time for someone who wants to abolish central banks. I hope that's what he wants, what he means by reducing them to zero. Actually, abolishing the Bank of Italy. Maybe they'll do that before Americans and the Fed. Who knows? The other institution that we should look at is, of course, the BIS in Basel, which is like the OPEC for central banks. The BIS in Basel. It's like OPEC and also like the UN for central banks. It's like a sovereign entity on Swiss soil. And it's strange because the UN is in Switzerland as well, in Geneva. So there is hope, I guess. We are now seeing politicians, Deputy Prime Minister calling for an end to central banks. Let's hope it's for real, and keep an eye on things. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, hit the notification button as well, the little bell to be notified of my videos. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you share it far and wide, the video, if you enjoy it. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.